The Japanese miracle. How did Japan recover after being hit by atomic bombs? How did it become the second strongest economy in the world in less than 40 years? Stay with us and see how peoples rise up and how miracles are made. On August 6, 1945, the US dropped its first atomic bomb on the Japanese city of Hiroshima. 3 days later, it dropped a second atomic bomb on Nagasaki. Just 6 days later, on August 15, 1945, Emperor Hirohito announced Japanese surrender. More than 40% of Japanese cities were destroyed, including the capital Tokyo. Factories, roads, and railways were reduced to rubble, and most of the infrastructure was destroyed. In addition to a devastating economic crisis, millions were left homeless and without adequate food, and many were forced to sell their possessions just to survive. The American occupation of Japan, represented by General MacArthur, made it seem as if Japan was completely finished. But from the ashes arose a Japanese economic miracle that astonished the world. Before we continue, don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell button. General MacArthur had put in place some reforms, including constitutional reform, with a new constitution issued in 1947 that prohibited war, established a parliamentary democracy, and stripped the emperor of his powers. Land was also distributed to farmers, and many of them went from being tenants to landowners. The large industrial conglomerates that controlled the economy were dismantled. However, these reforms would not have worked with any other people than the Japanese. The Japanese did not wait a moment to rebuild their country. After Japan's destruction in 1945, Japanese workers and engineers immediately began clearing the rubble and rebuilding the infrastructure without waiting for any outside assistance. Everyone worked with the utmost seriousness and rigor, and the Japanese program relied on three main elements: education, industry, and social and political justice. Japan realized that its future depended on minds, and that its salvation and renaissance lay in education. It invested heavily in free and compulsory education. Schools operated in simple conditions, but students competed fiercely, each one keeping in mind that the future of Japan depended on him. Japan opened more than 550 new universities, and some of its universities, such as Tokyo and Kyoto, became among the best in the world. Japan focused on a technical and scientific education and established universities specializing in engineering and technology. As a result, the percentage of educated people rose to 99%, and Japan became one of the most productive countries in terms of scientists and engineers. The Japanese focused on industry and concentrated on quality and productivity, creating a system that reduced waste and increased efficiency. Factories operated 24 hours a day, and workers voluntarily worked overtime without pay. Japan focused on a high-quality manufacturing, such as automobiles and electronics, despite its lack of natural resources. It began manufacturing high-quality, reasonably priced automobiles and electrical and electronic appliances. The slogan "We work for Japan" prevailed, and everyone worked extremely hard. Factory workers even slept at their workplaces because they did not have time to return home, and they refused vacations and retirement. Even children collected scrap metal for recycling. At companies such as Sony and Honda, employees considered the company their second home and made daily suggestions for improvement, which became known as the Kaizen system. During economic crisis, companies refused to lay off workers, instead reducing the salaries of senior executives, which the executives themselves had proposed. In 1951, the Treaty of San Francisco was signed, exempting Japan from paying war reparations. The previous year, the Korean War broke out, which was fortunate for Japan, as the United States decided to support it with all its might to be an excellent ally during the Cold War with the Soviet Union. The key to Japan's renaissance lies in social and political justice, which formed the cornerstone of this remarkable renaissance. Japan realized that people are its real capital, so it reformed the education system to make it free and compulsory up to high school. And education was no longer the preserve of the rich, but became the right for all. Schools in Tokyo were not much different from those in remote villages. The system focused on values such as a collective effort, discipline, and innovation, creating a generation that was homogeneous in its values and aspirations. The Renaissance was not only economic, but also humanistic. The government implemented policies to distribute wealth fairly, distributing land to farmers, which reduced poverty in rural areas, and implementing a permanent employment system which provided stable jobs and social guarantees and fostered loyalty to companies and productivity. The state supported small businesses until they become major companies such as Sony and Toyota. Although the United States imposed a new constitution on Japan, the Japanese turned it into a tool for stability. The influence of feudal families declined. Positions were granted based on competence, and the state fought corruption ruthlessly until transparency and accountability became the basis of governance. Japanese society was built on the idea of the group first, creating a balance between individual and society. Since 1960s, there has been universal health insurance for all Japanese people. Japan did not succeed solely because of technology or capital, but because it made justice the basis of all its policies. As a result of this justice, that remarkable effort and total dedication to work and the amazing planning of everything, a miracle occurred. After 19 years, by 1964, Tokyo, which had been completely destroyed, was ready to host the Olympic Games. In the same year, Japan introduced the Shinkansen bullet train to the world, which was the fastest train in the world at the time. By 1980, Japan had become the world's second largest economy, and since then the world has known it as Planet Japan. In your opinion, if social and political justice had not existed, would Japan have risen? I look forward to your responses in the comments below.